Hey everyone, in our last video we started a series on miracles, discussing whether or not it's ever rational to believe reports of them. We introduced the philosopher David Hume and explored the idea that it's a false dilemma to pit the laws of nature against testimony for miracles as Hume did. After all, if the natural world wasn't consistent and orderly, miracles wouldn't even stand out. Now, let's talk about Hume's perspective a bit more. He argued that it's always more likely that someone is lying or mistaken than an actual miracle happening. Well, why would he say that? Well, to recap from last time, the laws of nature are backed by extensive and consistent experiences. They're as solid as any belief we have based on what we see and experience repeatedly. On the other hand, we all know, sadly, that human testimony can be pretty shaky. People lie, people make mistakes, and this is especially true when it comes to reporting miracles. Our own experiences tell us that not everything we hear is super reliable. So when faced with a choice between a belief supported by rock-solid evidence and another supported by uncertain evidence, it makes sense to go with the stronger one. Hume puts it this way.
When anyone tells me that he saw a dead man restored to life, I immediately consider with myself whether it be more probable that this person should either deceive or be deceived, or that the fact which he relates should really have happened. I weigh the one miracle against the other, and according to the superiority which I discover, I pronounce my decision, and always reject the greater miracle.
Hume is so confident in his argument that he seems to suggest that we don't even need to investigate any testimony about miracles at all. He says,
"The wise and learned are contented in general to deride its absurdity, without informing themselves of the particular facts, by which it may be distinctly refuted."
Wow. Is this really a good way to reason? We should always ask ourselves, if I'm wrong, how would I ever know? We don't want to fall into any sort of epistemic trapdoors. If God performed a miracle in the past, how else am I supposed to find out except by evaluating the testimonies that we have for miracles? Think about it for a second. Any bias against believing in miracles can't be stronger than the skepticism we might have towards two related ideas. First, that it's at least possible that there's a God who intends humans to have a future existence, and second, that it's possible that God wants to communicate this in a clear and unmistakable way. If God exists and wants to make a revelation that people can't dismiss as mere human words, a miracle would be the perfect way to do it. It would serve as a clear sign that the message is truly from God and not just a clever story or some philosophy. So in a nutshell, if atheism could possibly even be false, we shouldn't create a rule that says don't ever investigate miracle claims. We should remain open to the possibility that we might need to change our minds. Also, Hume's rules don't make a whole lot of sense. Remember, Hume isn't necessarily rejecting miracles outright. He's just saying that it's not rational to believe in them on the basis of testimony. But think about it. It seems strange to say that if I actually observed a miracle, I'd be justified in believing that it happened, but I'd still have to reject all other reports of miracles. This means I'd have to say that it's rational for me to believe that I saw a miracle, but never rational to believe that others did. What if I wasn't the only one who witnessed it? Does that mean I can believe it happened, but I have to think everyone else who claims to have seen it is lying or mistaken? According to Hume's argument, I should always disbelieve reports of miracles. So if I saw a miracle myself, I'd be justified in believing that it happened based on my own experience, but I'd have to reject other witnesses' claims as absurd. For instance, if I saw Jesus turn water into wine, I could believe it happened, but I'd have to disbelieve others who said they saw the same thing. This would mean that I'm claiming it's both rational and irrational to believe that the miracle occurred, which doesn't make any sense. If it's rational for me to think that I observed a miracle, then there must be circumstances where it's rational to think someone else observed one. You might say I'm justified in believing others only if I witnessed the same miracle, but that seems too demanding. Why wouldn't I think that at least some people can be as reliable observers as I am? Why is it only rational to believe their reports if I've seen the event myself? Plus, Hume's rule actually goes too far. It's a science killer if we apply it consistently to extraordinary events outside our uniform experience. Take meteorites, for example. Most people have never seen a stone fall from the sky, yet many civilizations have stories about such events, and some even gave them religious significance. Laplace, the famous French astronomer, and his colleagues refused to accept testimonies about meteorites because they couldn't explain the phenomena based on their everyday experiences, and the testimonies were coming from peasants. Their stubbornness ironically held back scientific progress. It was actually the open-mindedness of the clergy at that time that allowed reports of meteors to be taken seriously and studied properly. So what's my point? Any way of thinking that would completely stop me from recognizing certain truths, even if those truths were real, is totally irrational. We need to be open to the possibility of changing our minds. After all, how else would we know if a miracle happened in the past unless someone wrote it down and told us about it? So we should at least be willing to evaluate their testimony and not dismiss it outright like Hume did. Someone might say, dude, don't you know that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence? If I say I went to my friend's house and saw a dog in his backyard, I'm sure you'd believe me. But what if I said that I saw a dragon? Would you believe me then? Well, believe it or not, skeptics, I actually kind of agree with the sentiment behind the slogan, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, as long as it's properly qualified. And that's what we'll discuss in my next video. So be sure to subscribe, sign up for notifications, and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.